Okay, I want you to picture this. You've just had a really healthy dinner. You know, a nice salad, maybe some steamed veggies. You feel good about it.
Right, you feel like you've done something good for yourself.
Exactly. But then you wake up and something feels, well, just off. Maybe a bit dizzy or just fuzzy, confused for a moment.
And the first thought is usually, oh, maybe it was that dessert I had last week, or, something fried.
Yeah, you blame the obvious culprits. But here's the really surprising thing we found digging into this. Sometimes, believe it or not, that weird overnight feeling, that risk, could actually be linked to a vegetable you thought was totally harmless.
Mm-hmm. Especially for folks over 60, a vegetable can quietly increase that stroke risk overnight.
Which sounds counterintuitive, right? Vegetables are supposed to prevent problems.
Well, what's really key to understand is that the food itself hasn't suddenly turned bad. It's more about how your body, as it ages, changes the way it processes certain compounds within that food.
So something that was fine at 40 might cause issues at 70.
Precisely. Especially when you add other factors into the mix, like common medications, maybe kidneys that aren't filtering quite as efficiently, or even just when you eat certain things.
Okay, so our goal today isn't to scare anyone away from vegetables. Absolutely not.
No, definitely not. It's about empowerment through knowledge.
Right. We want to give you the insights, the timing, the right balance, the awareness, so you can keep enjoying all these nutrient-packed foods safely, even as your body's processes naturally shift.
Think of this as a guide to understanding those shifts.
Okay, let's dive in. We're looking at 9 common vegetables that can pose this surprise risk. We'll start with the ones where the main issue is chemical interactions or conflicts with medications. That seems like a critical danger zone.
It really is. We're talking about how specific compounds in these vegetables can interact negatively with organs like your kidneys, which might be working a bit slower, or, very importantly, with common prescription drugs, especially those for blood management.
Got it. So let's kick off with one everyone thinks of as a superfood, number 9. Spinach. Hugely popular, seen as incredibly healthy.
Oh, absolutely, a nutritional powerhouse. But for some people over 60, it can sort of quietly become a bit of an enemy to brain health.
How does that happen? What's the mechanism?
Okay, so the main thing in spinach is these compounds called oxalates. Now, in younger adults with really efficient kidneys, they just get flushed out, no problem.
But that changes later in life.
It can, yeah. Kidney function often slows down a bit, blood vessels might become a little stiffer, and crucially, many seniors are also taking calcium or vitamin D supplements for bone health.
Ah, I see where this might be going. Oxalates and calcium.
Exactly. The oxalates bind with calcium, and if your kidneys aren't clearing them fast enough and you've got extra calcium floating around from supplements, they can form tiny crystals, calcium oxalate crystals.
And these crystals are the danger.
They can be. Our sources described it quite vividly, like sand clogging a thin pipe. Over time, these microscopic crystals can build up and actually narrow the very small arteries supplying blood to the brain.
Wow. Reducing blood flow and oxygen.
Precisely. Which could potentially trigger what's called a silent stroke, often happening, while you're asleep and your circulation naturally slows down.
Okay, that's concerning, but there's a fix.
Yes, and it's quite manageable. The main advice is to try and eat your spinach earlier in the day, think breakfast or lunch rather than dinner.
Makes sense. Give your body more time to process it.
Right, and maybe be a little cautious about having large servings of spinach frequently right alongside those calcium supplements. Mix it up.
And obviously talk to your doctor if you have existing kidney or heart conditions.
Oh, absolutely. That's always the first step.
Okay, moving on. Number 8 is broccoli. Another one we think of as incredibly heart healthy.
Definitely is. But the risk here isn't from the broccoli itself, interestingly. It's almost entirely about how it interacts with certain medications.
Okay, tell me more.
This really highlights the importance of consistency. Broccoli is packed with vitamin K.
Which helps blood clot, right?
Exactly. It's essential.
Yeah.
But if you're taking blood thinners, common ones like warfarin, Plavix, or even just a daily low-dose aspirin,
Then the vitamin K can interfere.
it can mess with the medication's effectiveness. Too much vitamin K can counteract the thinner, making your blood thicker than intended. Too little, if your dose is based on a high intake, could make it too thin.
So the danger isn't eating broccoli, it's changing how much you eat.
That's the real killer here. Inconsistency. Eating a huge amount one writ and then practically none the next throws your medication levels way off balance.
Because the doctor calibrates the dose based on your usual diet.
Precisely. They figure out the right dose of, say, warfarin based on your typical vitamin K intake. If that intake suddenly jumps up or down, the drug level needed to keep your blood in that safe, therapeutic range changes, sometimes daily.
And that could lead to either a clot or, conversely, a bleeding risk.
Exactly. So the key is consistency. If you eat broccoli regularly, keep eating it regularly in similar amounts. Don't make sudden, drastic changes.
And always tell your doctor about your regular diet, especially greens like broccoli.
Absolutely critical. They need that info to manage your medication safely.
Okay, next up, number 5, garlic. Praised for ages as a natural healer, good for blood pressure.
Oh yeah, garlic has a great reputation.
But it can apparently cross a line, especially when combined with prescription meds. You called it a double-dipping blood thinner.
That's a good way to put it. Garlic contains compounds like allicin and various sulfur compounds that naturally have a mild blood thinning effect,
Right.
which is generally a good thing.
Unless you're already on prescription blood thinners.
Exactly. Then you're stacking effects. The garlic's natural thinning plus the medication's thinning can make your blood too thin.
Leading to what kind of problems?
Well, increased risk of bruising, maybe more frequent nosebleeds. But the more serious concern is the potential for excessive bleeding if you got injured, or even, in rare cases, a hemorrhagic stroke where a weakened vessel in the brain bleeds.
You mentioned cooking changes the risk.
It does significantly. Heat tends to reduce the potency of those active compounds, particularly allicin. It sort of tames garlic's power.
So the advice is,
Avoid concentrated garlic supplements unless your doctor specifically says it's okay based on your whole health picture. Stick to using garlic as a flavoring in cooked meals. Small amounts are generally fine.
and keep an eye out for signs like unusual bruising.
Yes, or headaches that seem unusual, frequent nosebleeds. Those could be clues. Your blood might be a bit too thin. Talk to your doctor.
Right. And the last one in this chemical interaction section, number 4, onions, another heart-healthy staple.
Yep, good for you in moderation, but large amounts can cause issues, especially if you're already taking medication to lower your blood pressure.
What's the compound in onions doing this?
It's mainly a flavonoid called quercetin. Quercetin is actually beneficial in many ways. It's an antioxidant, and it naturally helps widen blood vessels, which lowers blood pressure.
So, again, good on its own, but potentially problematic with meds.
Correct. If you're already on blood pressure medication, adding a big dose of quercetin from, say, a very onion-heavy meal can cause your pressure to dip too low.
And for older adults, that dip is risky.
It can be. If blood pressure drops too much, especially suddenly, it reduces oxygen flow to the brain. That can lead to dizziness, confusion, feeling faint.
Potentially setting the stage for a fall or even contributing to conditions favoring a mild stroke, especially overnight.
Exactly. When your circulation naturally slows during sleep.
So the fix is moderation.
Enjoy onions for flavor, absolutely, but maybe don't make them the star of the meal, especially late in the day.
Does cooking help here too?
Yes, cooking does reduce the quercetin strength somewhat. So cooked onions are generally less impactful than, say, eating a huge amount of raw onion in a salad right before bed.
Okay, that makes sense. So that covers the main chemical and medication conflicts. It really seems like being aware of those interactions is crucial.
Hugely important.
But you also mentioned timing and hydration playing a big role, especially with how our circulation changes overnight as we age. Let's move into that zone.
Right. Here, the issue isn't always a direct chemical clash with the drug, but more about how things like diuretic effects or rapid sugar spikes play out when your body's systems are naturally slowing down overnight.
Okay, let's talk about vegetables 7 and 2 together. Romaine lettuce and asparagus. Both seem so light, so healthy, often recommended for weight loss even.
They are light and generally very healthy, but they both have a natural diuretic effect.
Meaning they make you pee more.
Essentially, yes, they encourage your body to release water. Now, for most younger people, that's no big deal, but for seniors, a couple of things can make this risky, especially late at night. Well, blood vessels might be a bit stiffer, less responsive, and importantly, the thirst signal often weakens with age, so you might not feel thirsty even when you're becoming slightly dehydrated.
So eating these diuretic vegetables late in the day could lead to mild dehydration overnight.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be severe dehydration, just enough to make your blood volume decrease slightly, making the blood itself a little thicker, a little more sluggish.
And thicker, sluggish blood is more prone to clotting, especially when you're lying still for hours.
That's the concern, particularly in those small vessels. It just creates a more favorable environment for tiny clots to potentially form.
And this risk is compounded if someone's already on, say, blood pressure meds or even prescribed diuretics.
Absolutely. You're adding another layer influencing fluid balance. So the fix here is really about timing.
Eat them earlier.
Yeah, enjoy that salad or those asparagus spears at lunchtime or maybe early afternoon. If you do have greens like romaine later in the evening, maybe make a point to have a small glass of water alongside them.
Just to consciously counteract that diuretic effect a bit.
Exactly. Keep things balanced.
Okay, next. Number 6, raw carrots. The classic, healthy, crunchy snack seems totally innocent.
It does. Low calorie, full of vitamins. But eating raw carrots, especially alone and late at night, can cause a bit of a roller coaster for your blood sugar and circulation.
How so? I thought carrots weren't that sugary.
They have natural sugars, and when eaten raw, they digest pretty quickly. This can lead to a relatively rapid rise in blood sugar.
Okay.
Now, for seniors whose metabolism might be a bit slower, or maybe if there's underlying insulin resistance or prediabetes, that spike can be more pronounced. And what goes up must come down.
The sugar crash.
Right. And that crash, especially while you're sleeping, triggers your body's stress response. It releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline.
Fight or flight hormones, when
What-
you should be resting.
Exactly. And what do those hormones do? They tighten blood vessels, they raise blood pressure slightly, and they can actually make your blood a bit thicker.
So again, creating conditions that are more favorable for clots when your body should be in repair mode.
Precisely. It's putting stress on the system at the wrong time.
So what's the fix for carrots? Cook them.
Cooking does slow the sugar release a bit, but the main thing is avoid eating large amounts of raw carrots alone, especially late. Pair them with something.
Like protein or fat.
Yes, hummus is perfect. A few nuts, maybe some Greek yogurt. Adding protein or healthy fat slows down the digestion and absorption of the sugar, preventing that sharp spike and crash. It stabilizes things.
That's a great practical tip. Stabilization is key. Which brings us to number 3. Corn. You said this one acts more like a starch.
Yeah, nutritionally speaking, corn, especially sweet corn, behaves a lot more like, say, potatoes or white bread than like leafy greens.
Meaning it converts to sugar quickly.
Very quickly. It breaks down into glucose rapidly, causing those same blood sugar spikes we just talked about with carrots, only potentially even more pronounced.
And triggering the same stress hormone response overnight.
Exactly the same pattern. Sugar spike, crash, cortisol, and adrenaline release, vessels tightening, blood thickening. It's creating that risky internal environment during your rest period.
Okay, so the advice for corn is similar.
Treat it more like a treat, an occasional side dish, rather than a daily vegetable staple, perhaps. Definitely try to avoid eating large portions of it late at night.
And pair it wisely.
Absolutely. If you have corn, have it with protein and fats, maybe some black beans, avocado, chicken, or eggs. That pairing really helps slow down that glucose absorption.
And fresh corn is better than processed.
Oh, generally, yes. Fresh or frozen corn kernels are better than things like cornmeal, corn flakes, or high fructose corn syrup, which are much more processed and hit your system even faster.
Got it. Okay, we've covered a lot. Chemical interactions, timing, hydration, sugar spikes. Now, for the number 1 vegetable on this surprising list, you called it the nightshade wild card.
Yes, number 1, tomatoes. Probably the most consumed vegetable, technically a fruit, I know, that fits this profile for potential risk in seniors. The ultimate symbol of healthy eating for many.
Wow, tomatoes. That is surprising. What makes them the wild card? You mentioned a few compounds. Histamines, tyramines, solanine. That sounds complex.
It is a bit complex. Tomatoes belong to the nightshade family, and they contain this mix of compounds. Now, for most people, these are fine, but in some sensitive individuals, especially as the system ages and maybe becomes a bit more fragile,
What can these compounds do?
well, things like histamines and tyramines can, in some people, trigger inflammation or even affect blood vessels, sometimes constricting, sometimes dilating them in unpredictable ways. They can also potentially interfere a bit with nerve signaling.
Leading to symptoms that might feel like something serious.
Exactly. Dizziness, headaches, maybe some numbness or tingling, symptoms that can actually mimic the early warning signs of a stroke, causing unnecessary alarm or confusion.
Okay, that's the mimic aspect. You also mentioned solanine. What about cooking that?
Yes, solanine is one of the typical nightshade compounds. Gentle cooking does help to reduce its levels, which is good.
But there's another layer with tomatoes, right? The acidity.
That's a really important factor, especially concerning overnight effects. Tomatoes are quite acidic.
And that matters because
High acidity can potentially leach or deplete certain minerals from your body, particularly electrolytes like calcium and, importantly, magnesium.
Why is magnesium so crucial here?
Magnesium plays a huge role in regulating nerve function, muscle function, including the heart muscle, and maintaining stable blood pressure. If your magnesium levels get depleted, especially from a large acidic meal late at night, it can contribute to unstable blood pressure or even muscle cramps or heart rhythm irregularities during sleep.
So it disrupts that stable internal environment needed for deep rest.
Precisely. It adds another layer of potential instability when your body should be calmest.
Okay, so with tomatoes, the fix isn't necessarily avoidance, but careful preparation and timing.
Exactly. Wisdom, not abandonment. First, cooking them gently helps. It reduces the solanine and actually boosts the availability of lycopene, which is a fantastic antioxidant.
So cooked tomato sauce might be better than a huge raw tomato salad late at night.
Generally, yes, especially consumed earlier. Avoid really heavy, concentrated tomato dishes, like a big bowl of pasta with thick sauce right before you go to bed.
And you mentioned pairing them to balance the acidity.
Right. Pairing tomatoes with foods rich in magnesium can be helpful. Think pumpkin seeds, almonds, spinach, eaten earlier, or even some dark chocolate. It helps buffer the acidity and replenish that crucial magnesium.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a list. We've gone from spinach and oxalates, broccoli and vitamin K, through diuretics like lettuce and asparagus, sugar spikes from carrots and corn, and finally the tomato wildcard.
It covers a range of mechanisms.
And I can see how hearing all this might feel a bit surprising, maybe even a little worrying, because we've all been told forever, eat your vegetables, they're always good.
And fundamentally, they are good. They are packed with nutrients we absolutely need. But the core takeaway here has to be that our bodies change, especially after 60.
How so specifically in relation to this?
Well, kidney filtration might slow down. Blood vessels might lose some elasticity. Our hydration signals can weaken. Metabolic processes might not be as zippy as they once were.
So it's not just what you eat anymore.
It becomes much more about when you eat it, how much you eat in one sitting, and crucially, what else is going on, like medications you're taking.
Okay, let's bring it back to those three key tools you mentioned earlier. Timing, balance, and awareness.
Yeah.
How do they apply across the board?
Well, take spinach, the key is balance, right? Balancing intake with supplement timing to avoid those oxalate crystals.
Okay, and asparagus or romaine.
That's all about timing. Eating them earlier to avoid that overnight diuretic effect leading to thicker blood.
Right. And what about awareness, especially with something like broccoli and warfarin?
Awareness there means knowing it's not the broccoli itself that's bad, but the inconsistency. Be aware of your intake, keep it steady, and make your doctor aware too that knowledge and communication is key.
So it's about making small, smart adjustments, not drastic eliminations.
Exactly. It's not about restriction. It's about understanding how things work now in your body. Proper hydration, smart timing, pairing foods thoughtfully, being really open with your doctor about your diet and meds.
Yeah.
These things put you back in control.
You remain empowered to enjoy these foods.
Absolutely. But, and this is vital, always talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian before making any major changes to your diet, especially if you're managing conditions like heart disease, kidney issues, or are on blood thinners or blood pressure medications.
That professional guidance is irreplaceable.
Completely.
So we've covered this surprising spectrum, showing how even healthy foods need mindful consumption as we age. They're still allies, just allies we need to understand better.
Well said. Understanding these nuances is what helps you stay healthy, sharp, and independent long term.
So remember, this awareness we've talked about today, it isn't meant to restrict you. It's actually freedom. The freedom that comes with knowledge. Because what you choose to put on your plate today and how you choose to do it really does become the clarity, the strength, and the independence you carry with you into tomorrow.